We are recording. Great. Welcome to Navan. I'm dialing in from Navan. As Margaret said, I got to meet some of the group yesterday in Donegal, and then it's great to get the opportunity to do this session for the people who weren't able to make it remotely. Just some housekeeping before I get started, just because people think I'm a bit weird sometimes. I've got two screens, so when I'm looking straight at you, I can see you, and I can see all your faces. So if you feel comfortable leaving your camera on, I do appreciate it. It just makes it easier than delivering a talk to a blank screen. But I understand completely if you don't want to do that. But it does help me, so I can see you. So I can see you nodding. I can see you falling asleep. I can see you playing with your cat. Whatever else you're doing, I can see that. So that's all good. If I look to the side, it's not that I'm watching TV. It's just that my slides are actually on a screen beside me. So sometimes I'm over and back, and people think that I'm watching EastEnders or something, but I'm not. I'm actually just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to say.
George here, I'm just eating my dinner. I don't think you all want to watch me eating my dinner.
Right. No, because I'm a bit hungry, so maybe that'll be teasing. The slides will be made available afterwards, so there's no need to kind of be taking pictures of the screen, whatever. You'll have they'll be shared out to you afterwards. And I don't mind being interrupted and asked questions. By all means, pop questions into the chat box, but I won't necessarily see them at the right time. So if there's something that you want to stop me and interrupt or whatever, just unmute yourself and stop me. I don't mind at all, if that's okay. I'll try and keep it I'll try and keep you here for not too long, but I always overrun. So I'll make it as entertaining as possible, and hopefully it'll be worth it at the end. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and we will get started. Make sure that everybody can see. Okay, hold on. Readjust this. Okay, can everybody see that now? Cool. I mean, the slides aren't that exciting, so if you don't have to view them if you don't want to. Where's my cursor? Okay, great. Into fundraising. Okay, so first off, I'm Kevin. I work for Academy Street Workshop, which is a company that I set up a few years ago with my wife, where we basically work with nonprofits all over Ireland and overseas. Anywhere that'll have us, really. And our main kind of focus is actually trying to help organizations, and particularly small organizations, overcome the obstacles that sometimes we run into. I've been working in the nonprofit sector my whole career, really. So I have seen most of the issues that you've come across. I have been on committees and boards. I have been a paid fundraiser. I've been a head of an organization. I've been the founder of an organization. I've had disasters. I've bounced my head off the table numerous times going, how on earth am I going to get through this? So I understand all your pain. So I'm on your side, okay? And really the goal of this evening session is really that we leave you with some new thoughts. I'm not here to give you a list of 10 ideas that are going to work for you. That would be ridiculous, because I don't know, the situation that you're in. I really want you to kind of leave, and tomorrow when you're chatting with the committee or you're chatting with your colleagues, kind of go, there was this fella chatting to us last night, and like some of what he said was rubbish, but he had a couple of interesting ideas that maybe we want to think about. And I just want you to think about stuff. It's not that you leave here with all the answers, it's that you leave here with some thoughts. And I'd be happy with that. We are going to cover before you fundraise. Now, I know that always kind of sounds funny, because I know that you guys are already fundraising, you're already doing events, you're already looking for grants, all that kind of stuff, and that's great. But oftentimes when I go into organizations, I find that the reason that we hit stumbling blocks 2 or 3 years into the future is because we have lost sight of the kind of core basics, and we haven't kind of done some of the simple messaging stuff first. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you need to put in place before fundraising, so you can actually go back and make sure you have all those things done. We'll go through all the different types of fundraising that you might be able to do, some of the pros and cons, how it might work for you, and then we'll talk about some donor care. We may go off on tangents as well. I can't promise that we won't, but that's what we're aiming to get through. First things first, if you need to raise money for your organization to operate, then you're a fundraising organization. Okay. It's an important thing. So many of our organizations exist in this kind of utopian view that if only we didn't have to do fundraising, everything would be all right. And that fundraising is this dirty, filthy secret that we have to do. We don't want to do. We'd rather cut off our fingers and feed them to the dog than do fundraising. So, and if you go into it with that viewpoint, it's going to be a disaster. It's like, it's like putting a goalkeeper on the pitch who hates spinning goal. He's not going to be any good at it. So you have to embrace the fact that fundraising is actually core to you being successful. That in order to do all the great things you want to do, fundraising is a tool in your bag that enables you to do that. And that's a great thing. So you don't want to, so if you're coming to this with the, I hate this, go away now, just quit. Walk away. It's a hopeless cause, but hopefully, if you stick with us for a little bit this evening, and just kind of try and change that mindset that actually fundraising is core. It's actually what we do. It's the opportunity we give to other people in our community to help us do the amazing things that we want to do. Can I get some agreement on that? Okay, I got a couple of nods. That'll do me for now. My cursor keeps going. Okay, so you need to plan. We're not going to cover all of the bits, but when you're planning, when you are thinking about fundraising, we need to move away from the goal of focusing on what's the next thing. Oh, next week we need to pay the electricity. The week after that we have to pay the insurance, and you're always in this hamster wheel of we just need to get things done now, immediately, urgently. If you're doing that, you're always failing because you're always desperate. You're never getting to plan ahead. You're never looking to the future, and you're never going to achieve the big dreams that you have for your organization. So we need to put a plan in place. A plan for a fundraising plan looks exactly same as a marketing plan or a business plan or a strategic plan. They're all the same thing. They just put a different label on it. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that now because that's a whole other session, and you really want to get to bed before 1 o'clock. But before we start our fundraising, before you plan out, before you kind of sit down and kind of go, what are we going to do in August? I want to sit back and kind of go, okay, before we start talking about Mary's idea to do a backpack and John's idea to do a walk and, everyone else's idea to do something stupid, stop thinking for ideas and go, okay, let's look for 2 years. Let's make a 2-year plan and let's make a list of all the, and let's to make a plan under these headings. Our goal and mission. Why do we exist? What are we trying to achieve? We're going to come to that in a few minutes, so I'm going to move quickly on from that because I'll spend hours on that. What are we raising money for? What are we actually looking for? How much money do we need? And what are we actually going to spend it for? Do we know? The fundraising target of as much as we can is not a target. And again, you'll never achieve it. Exactly like if you send the goalkeeper onto the pitch and say, sure, do what you can. He's going to be like, I have no idea what to do. So how much money do you need? What's it going for? Okay. You need to have an idea of what's going on in the market. Okay. That's sounds very poncy, sounds very businessy. What is happening in your community? Who's your competition? If you're looking to raise money from all of Donegal, what are the other major fundraising activities that are happening in Donegal? What GAA clubs are building new clubhouses? What big investments are drawing money from the community? What is happening? You need to know that because they're competing for the same money that you are. So if the GAA club are having a massive big gala ball in October, you got to stay out of their way because they've got more people than you. So you've got to understand what's going on. You also need to know, what national kind of campaigns, what big appeals might be happening. Understanding what's going on. It's not that you can't raise money while those other things are going on, but knowledge is power. So knowing what's happening means, oh well, if they're doing it on a Sunday, we'll do it on a Saturday, or whatever's going on. Or maybe you're talking about doing a table quiz, but when you actually you realize that 13 other organizations have done table quizzes in the last year. Maybe the table quiz market is saturated and we should come up with some other idea. So just thinking and going, oh, knowing what's going on helps. A needs analysis, yeah. So how much money we need and what for. An analysis of resources. What are the resources that we have in our organization that we can bring to bear? So who is on our committee and what skills do they have? So, oh, we have Brian there who does business to business sales of tractor parts. Great, okay, so he knows the business community. That's a useful skill, and he's used to selling into the business community. So he's probably a good person to think about how we might access the business community for fundraising. Oh, Eleanor is actually a digital strategist. Oh, that's really useful. Maybe she can help us on our website. I'm just picking your names randomly. But so what are the resources that we have in our community? What skills do we have? What skills do we not have? Like if we have a community center, that's a resource that we have. We have rooms that we can use. We have clients, we have customers that are coming out, they're resources. We have people who rent the space from us. That's people, they're possibly volunteers, they're resources. Maybe we've got 50 grand in the bank for the rainy day fund. That's also a resource. I'm not saying we're going to spend it, but there are things you need to identify and kind of go, okay, well, that's something we have. That's something we have. That's the kind of stuff that we'll then plug into our fundraising plan as we go forward, because we're able to kind of go, well, we have Kevin's idea, we have Mary's idea. Mary's idea, we have 3 people who have expertise in that, and we've done it before in this organization. Kevin's idea, we don't even know what he's talking about. Which idea should we go with? Well, Mary's. There's logic there. Takes away the guesswork. Takes away you start thinking about, start using logic for our decisions. We do an analysis of our current fundraising products. Oh, all of us are terrible at this. You know, the amount of times I kind of go, now, Kevin, we have the annual walk that we've been doing for 35 years. Now, it used to raise lots of money. In the last few years, to be honest, it's not really raising any money, but sure, we have to do it. The people love it, and we have to do it. You don't have to do it. The walk is there to raise money. If it's not raising money, if it's not worth the effort, cut it. Like, it's not, you're not there. The event, you're there to do what you want to do. You're there. Why do you exist? You're there to provide a service, to do whatever your organization set up to do. If the walk that you set up to raise money is no longer raising money, then it's no longer serving your organization. So you cut it. So you need to have a look at all the different fundraising that you've been doing over the years. Not to cut it all. It's a very drastic thing, but kind of go, that's doing really well. Maybe we should put more effort into that. This isn't doing so well. Maybe we need to look at how we tweak that. That's doing terribly, let's cut it. And again, we do not like to let things go. We are Irish after all. We hold on to things forever. So you do an analysis of your current fundraising products. Then you do a fundraising strategy. You look at all the different options, and I'm going to talk about all the different options that you can pick, and make a decision based on kind of going, why are we doing that? It's not good enough to kind of go, well, Jude had this great idea, so we're just going with that. We have to at least go, well, Jude had this great idea. And when we looked at it, we thought that Margaret knows all the people that we need to know to do that. Eleanor's been involved in a similar campaign before. We think that it's going to be it's going to be cost effective for us to run that campaign. So we're going to give it a go. Well, now there's a logic behind what we're doing. So any decision that you make, it should be about not, sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good idea, and it's going to make money for us. So we need to kind of have a good sense of why we're doing things. Then we have to have a plan for how we're going to do that, and measures for success, which we'll hopefully get to later. Okay. Yeah. That's just what I'm not expecting you to be an expert on a fundraising plan after that, but I'm just kind of want to walk you through this, like the thinking behind it, that when you're sitting down as your committee, as your fundraising subcommittee, as a person, just kind of going, where do I start? Here's a good place to start. So before you start, be able to answer these questions. Why do you exist? What do you do? Why should I care? And to a lesser extent, why you and not others? I'll talk about that in a second. Why do you exist? It sounds like a very existential question. But we all struggle to answer it when we're in our organizations, because we all answer the question, why do you exist? And we all start with, well, we exist to provide rooms for local community groups to hire. It's like, no, you don't. Not at all. If you're a community center and you happen to have rooms available for community groups to hire. That's not why you exist. You exist because the community need a place to come together, to share experiences, to learn, to be social. And our solution to that problem was to set up a community center where we can provide those rooms. You don't a soup kitchen doesn't exist to provide soup. That's what a restaurant does. A soup kitchen exists because there are people who are in need of warm sustenance. And our solution to that is, because there's lots of solutions to that problem. If there's people who are hungry, we could give them money. We could teach them how to cook. We could give them soup. I mean, that's very crass. But you get my point. What you do is actually the solution to the problem. So why do you exist? We exist because we believe that people in our community should have a safe, affordable place where they can get together and have bridge club, the kids can play football, whatever happens to be. We believe that that's an important part of our community. Fantastic. And in order to do that, we provide a space that has 3 rooms, 4 pitches, whatever happens to be that you do. So why do we exist? We exist because, okay? Then what do you do? Well, we provide affordable rooms in a safe place, whatever happens to be, or we provide, warm meals 5 days a week for people in need, or whatever that is. So we identify the need, and then we kind of say, what are we going to do about it? The reason we talk about it in this manner is you always remember that you're speaking to people who don't necessarily understand what you're at. You understand at a core level the importance of a community center, of a soup kitchen, of a homeless shelter, whatever happens to you. You get that. And because you're in the middle of it, because you're so aware of it, and you're so it's such an important part of your life, you just assume that everybody gets that. And if I even have to pause and go, huh? Then you've lost me as a potential donor, or as someone who might be interested in you. Like if you kind of go, oh, we've a homeless shelter, we provide massage therapy for people who are on the streets. But straight away I might be like, what? Homeless people massage therapy? What? And all of a sudden I'm not listening to you. I'm lost in my own head going, massage? Are they mad? What the hell? But you might say, we exist, we've a major problem with homelessness in our town, and lots of people who are homeless suffer from physical ailments, disabilities from their lifestyle. So we provide massages to help them kind of sort out some of the pain. It helps them with their drug addiction, whatever. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up off the top of my head. We understand how if you just go, we're a homeless shelter and we do this, this, and this, you're assuming that I understand the problem. You need to kind of go, this is the problem and our solution to it is this. And then I'm being brought on a journey where I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's really interesting. I understand that now. But tell me more. What type of massage is this disease? What sort of injuries are people having? Oh, that's really interesting. I'd love to help with that. Well, that's funny you should ask, because I need some money. You're bringing me on a journey. So why do you exist? We exist because what do you do? This is what we do. Then why should I care? I used to have the much more crass version of saying, like, why should I give a shit? But people don't like when I say that. But why should I care? Why should I care about you? Again, you think, oh, don't be ridiculous, Kevin. Of course people should care about these things. But we all change the channel all the time on stuff we should care about. Like, it's a documentary about homelessness. Oh, I can't face that anymore. Or it's about, abuse, or it's about something. And we all flick the channel. So we all don't care about things that are important. So you have to figure out how you're going to make me stop flicking the channel, stop and listen to you, read your flyer, listen to you when you stand up to say a few words, whatever it happens to be. Why should I care? So if it's, if you're talking to me as a business owner, you might become like, well, Kevin, like, as having, the people being homeless on the streets isn't good for our town. It discourages people coming into the town and spending money in businesses just like yours. So I'm sure that it's in your interest to like care for the homeless people, so that the overall atmosphere in the town is better, and businesses are going to do better as a result. Well, now I'm bloody interested. You're going to tell me I'm making more money. Okay, I'm interested. Nick, I'm making this up, but you have to make the point. Why are you talking to me? How is this relevant to me? Well, Kevin, you have a young family, I know. So don't you want to make sure that as they grow up, there's always a safe place for them to play, that they're able to go to the basketball club, that as they get older, there's a teen disco for them? Well, unless we support the community centre now, it won't be there when your kids are old enough to go to the disco. Is that what you want? No, of course not. So why should I care? You have to be able to connect it to me. Okay. Why do you exist? What do you do? Why should I care? The why you and not others is a personal thing. This is an internal monologue that we all have, that we're not worthy. Right? Other organizations deserve the money more than we do. That's what we believe. Like in our heart of hearts, we're like, oh God, Vincent de Paul do such amazing work. How could we possibly, it's easy for them to raise money. They do such amazing work. Why would anyone give us the money? It's the woe is me kind of thing, But the whole point is that you give your time for this, or for your organizations. You think it's important. You value the work. You value the service. You value your organization. And all you're trying to do is find other people who care about the same things that you do. Fundraising is the search for people who care about the same things that we do, and getting them, or asking them, giving them the opportunity to help. That's all fundraising is. And there are limitless people in the world. There's limitless money in the world. So there's no shortage of that. It's just that we have to make the effort to find the people who actually care about that. The people who walk past you and go, don't care about homeless people. We don't care about them. There's other people who care about them. We're not going to get worried or offended by the people who go, that's stupid. I don't care about the bridge club. Well, I don't care about you. I care about bridge. Loads of people care about bridge. Why am I talking about bridge? Okay, you get my point. So you have to understand that, because just that you can't talk yourself out of fundraising. You can't give yourself the kind of, oh, sure, it's easy to raise money for cancer. It's easier to raise money for sick kids. Do you know what? They've got their own issues too. And it's just as hard to raise money. All you're looking for is to find the people who care about the same things we do. And that's all we're at. So you do deserve the money. You do deserve to go out there. So the why you and not others is a personal. Okay. You with me? Okay, haven't lost anybody just yet. Good. Okay. So now, as we said, we also need to be able to answer. This is before you dare ask me for money, before you start designing the poster and the logo, which everyone loves getting stuck into. How much do we need? How much money do we need? And what's it going to go for? Do we need €300,000 to build a new building? Do we need €500 for some new nets? What do you need money for? Specifically, what are you going to spend it on? I'm okay with you saying, well, we need some nets and we need jerseys, and in 2 years' time, we're going to need a new extension on the building. That's all perfectly okay. But you have to be able to tell me, should I happen to pull up in my massive Rolls Royce outside your organization and say, young woman, tell me how much money you need and what you'd spend it on? You need to be able to tell me. You'll kind of go, well, let me show you our plans. Right now, you know what, the place looks a bit sketchy, so we could do it a lick of paint. But once we get past this, we've got some big ambitions. You need to be able to tell me exactly what money, how much money you need, and what that would go to if we got it. And you also have to have a sense of what success looks like, because it can be fundraising can be endless. Like particularly if you're raising money for like a new building, like a new community center that's €500,000, whatever. It can take 10 years, 15 years, whatever it takes to get there. So it can feel like, where are we going? How do we know what our milestones are? Like, what does success look like this year? So you have to have a sense of, well, yeah, no, our goal is, to build a new clubhouse, a new community center, whatever happens to be, and hopefully have it open in the next 5 years. So this year, what we're really trying to do is we want to get the drawings done. So we're raising money to get the architectural drawings done, plus have new nets for the existing centre or whatever happens to be. So at the end of the year, able to reflect back and kind of go, well, we achieved what we set out to do. We set out to, get the architectural drawings done and whatever else the kind of stuff is. So that was our target. And now we know we're successful and we're able to report back to everybody that gives us money. Look what we did. We set out to do this and we've done it. We've proven to you that we're a great organization and that we're a winning team that you want to get on board with. If it's always like, oh, sure, we'll get there in the end, I don't believe you. I get tired hearing that. So it's a bit like my own extension in my own house that I'll get done eventually. But separating personal life and work life is an important part of the thing. So what does success look like? And then what about next year? You always have to have that bit of what's next year going to be, because if you focus all the time on this year in your communication, particularly, so if you're talking out to your supporters, you're talking in the newspaper, talking about social media, about, I don't know, oh, we have to get our target 20,000 euro a year this year, 20,000 euro, 20,000 euro, 20,000 euro this year. You can build up momentum. And then you hit your 20,000 euro and you're like, yay! And then it's really hard to go, now we have to start again. That feels hard if you're constantly building. So you can have those short-term targets once you're constantly communicating. And next year we want to expand. Next year we want to add boys basketball alongside our girls basketball, or whatever happens to be. We always have this is next year. This is next year, this is the year after. So that if I could decide to come on board with you, whether I'm a business, whether I'm, a volunteer, whether I'm just a donor, that I have a sense that I'm on a journey with you, that this is an investment in the future, that you are going to be an organization that I'm going to be part of for a long time. Again, whether it's just my money, whether it's my time, but it's a long-term connection. It's a relationship I'm going to have with you. So you always have to have a sense of what does success look like? And what happens next? Oh yeah. Okay. Everybody has the right to be given the opportunity to support your organization. Anybody disagree? I normally get a couple of disagreements, but that's okay. Everyone has their.
I wouldn't say a disagreement as such, but I know for us, we have to be really careful that we can't be seen as political. We have to stay neutral that way.
Of course, yeah.
That would be the only thing that we have to be careful about.
Would you believe, Jude, that's the first time anyone's ever said the political angle, yep. Which is 100% correct. So I wish I could give out gold stars. So extra 2 gold stars for you. No, you're absolutely right. Of course, there is always exceptions, and there are organizations, for instance, like that can't take money from Coca-Cola because they're a children's organization and they ethically make those choices, whatever. But I guess my point is that every individual has the right to be given the opportunity to support your organization. Should they not be selling, sweets to children, or should they not be a political party? They are entitled to the right to be given the opportunity to support your organization. So it's a really important thing that rights taken away make people angry. Anytime you try and take away somebody's right, they get angry. They get onto Joe Duffy. That's like, people get annoyed, they go to Joe Duffy. If someone came to you with a check for 50 euro, cash for 20 euro, 1,000 euro, just me, individual, no political affiliations, no corporate, said, here you go, Brian, here's 50 quid, love what you're at. And Brian said, feck off you, don't want your money. I would go ape. I tell everybody, I would be on Joe Duffy. I'd be like, Joe, wait to hear what Brian did. Your man, he's an awful, it'd be the usual, be like the same story that we always hear. Because I have a right to go, I care about what you're doing brilliant work. I want to be part of that. That's our societal right. So if you don't ask people to support you, you're denying them a right to support a cause that they care about, which is an interesting way of thinking about it. We often think, oh, sure, I couldn't ask them. Oh, I'd hate to ask people for money. Oh, I can't do that. We can't ask, older people to give us 50p a week, or we can't ask the kids to organize a fundraiser for us. We're denying people a right to support an organization that they may really care about. And we don't have the right to do that. When you say, we can't ask them for money, we can't do that type of fundraising, we can't expect people to do X, Y, and Z for us, we're making a decision on behalf of other people, and we don't have that right. I've been fundraising for too long, 15 years, something like that. I have never, ever had anyone be offended because they were asked to support an organization I was working with. Never. I have had people say, you're always asking for money, go away. Fine. I've had lots of people say no, no problem. I have never had anyone offended because they were asked to support something. Not interesting. And yet all the time we make those decisions and people can go, oh, we couldn't ask the active retirement group. Sure, they don't have many money, whatever. Steve, have you got a question?
Yeah, I just as you were speaking there, a question came to mind. So my local secondary school, the secondary school that I went to, their football team, so you're talking 16 and 17-year-old, 18-year-old boys, because it's a boys' school, is sponsored by a local bar.
Right.
Now, it was sponsored by, I'm sure anybody will know, it was sponsored by Blake's Bar and Restaurant. And then the GAA put out a circular saying that they didn't want underage teams sponsored by bars. So the shirt now says Blake Group, not Blake's Bar and Restaurant, simply says Blake Group. Now, everybody in my corner of the world knows what Blake Group do. They run 3 bars and a restaurant.
Right.
And while I'm not going to say that that hugely upsets me, there have been parents who have voiced their opposition to this.
Yeah. It's a live issue. I mean, it's not really. The GA rules are their own rules, and I'm not going to. I don't know them, so I'm not going to comment on them. It brings up a really good point, though, and I'm glad you made that point, Stephen. Every organization should have a set of rules, a charter, a memo, as something where you've sat down in advance and said, who would we not take money from, or how are we going to vet the organizations that we could possibly get money from, and what policy are we going to use? I mean, realistically, I think a school taking money from a bar sounds pretty dodgy, but that's, I'm not there. They need the money, and if no one else is going to get them, that's not for me to make the decision of. But where the way of avoiding getting themselves into the awkward situation where you have to come up to maybe a very well-meaning parent who happens to, own Diageo, and they say, I'd like to give you money. It's much easier for you to kind of go, do you know what, we'd love to, but we actually have a policy where we can't accept money from any alcohol-based organization. So sorry, we really appreciate the gesture. It's much easier to have that in place in advance than to be like, oh, I'll have to talk to someone and get back to you. And then it can, you risk offending people, all that kind of stuff. So it's a good point, Stephen, and thanks for bringing it up. As an organization, if you're going to fundraise, you really should have a sit down at some stage. It doesn't have to be a major document. It needs to be a memo that's put aside from a board meeting that everyone's agreed to. These are how we're going to decide on what money or what organizations we can take. As you get into bigger fundraising, this is what I'm talking about, going off on tangents. It's particularly useful to have in place a procedures of how you're going to check these organizations out, particularly when you get into corporate fundraising, because and particularly if you're in like an environmental space, because the environmental space and the corporate world, they are not friends. Okay. And they'll also the environmental groups tend to like attacking each other. I don't know why, they just do. So what you often find is, you'll accept money from a small local company, and then it's owned by a company that's owned by a company that's owned by a company that's owned by a company that did something bad somewhere in Sierra Leone, right? Okay. And then you get, oh, well, you shouldn't take that money from it. Okay, and that's fair enough. So what I would always advise, if you're going down that corporate route and you want to have rules, have some simple steps of how you're going to make your decisions. And then you can just say, well, we followed our procedures and it didn't come up. So you might be, if we have an opportunity to receive sponsorship or donation from a company, we will do a Google search for their ethics statement or something. We will go on, we will read their annual report and see if it flags anything that we should be concerned about. We'll bring those findings to the board, and the board will make a decision. Because you can't be expected to go and check the annual report of a company that, and then all of the companies that it's associated with, because Pepsi owns the world, and it's all this kind of stuff. So you have to be really careful. And at least that way, if someone comes to you and says, well, did you know that one of the shareholders of that company, was doing something else, you kind of go, well, actually, we had a policy and we followed it. That's unfortunate. We can end that partnership now, but at least you did the work that you should have done. You had a policy, you followed it, nothing came up. That's okay. So something's brought to your attention later. You're like, oh, okay, well, now we know, and that's fine. Rather than, again, that whole, oh, we just took the money, and you just look like you're not doing the best. So if you're going down that route, having some sort of policies. So if someone comes over and says, we're from the X group, whatever happened, whatever that company was, you do a search and kind of go, oh, well, they own a group of bars, and we're a youth organization. We don't want to be associated with that. Grant, no problem. So that could be a useful thing. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay, we got keep moving. You may have guessed that I am appalling at getting to the point. You've already noticed. And I go on and on and on and on. I used to have to make a lot of calls. Sorry, I just went back because I knew everyone was reading the slide and I wanted to listen to me. I used to make a lot of calls asking people to volunteer and organize events when I worked for the Irish Cancer Society. Like I would have like 100 people on a list. And I was really bad at it. I would end up kind of making these calls, excuse me, that will be like, hey, Stuart, how are things going? It's Kevin here from the Cancer Society. Now, I know you're busy, so sorry to take up your time. I wanted to ask you something, a bit of an ask for you now. Feel free to say no. Like, I know you do an awful lot for us, so, I'm just calling you to ask you, but, don't worry if you can't. We have this event coming up, and the person who's supposed to organize it was, had to drop out, and we're kind of stuck. Now, I know you probably can't do it yourself because you're probably too busy, but I thought that maybe I'd say it to you and see if you have any ideas, right? So I called Stuart to ask him to step in for the person who pulled out, and I don't ask him the goddamn question. So Stuart goes, I can't think of anybody. If I do, I'll let you know. And I go, oh, great, Stuart, thanks. And then I get off the phone and I'm left going, well, that didn't help. And now Stuart's a bit annoyed at me because I've disturbed him from doing whatever he was doing. And he's like, what was that call about? And then I haven't gotten what I was supposed to do. And I had a boss chewing my ear off saying, have you got someone to cover that event for you or whatever? So I was really bad at it. So I created an arrow just to get me to the point. And I called it the magic arrow because I was lame at the time. Like, the way you have these great ideas for naming things, and then you don't foresee that you're going to be talking about it for the next 10 years to people that you don't know. Well, that's my life. So I called it the magic arrow, and people find it really useful as a really useful way of asking for something without it being a script. Because you know the way you always got a device of write down all the questions you want to ask, you just follow them step by step, and then you sound like a robot and like, that's just weird. Like that's horrible. But you still have to get to the point. So I created this arrow to kind of get me to the point, but to allow it to be a bit more natural. And say people find it really useful. It's not a strict thing, but it might be, you know, I'm a volunteer with Bundoran and Homeless Society. I really, it's really important to me because I just think it's disgraceful this day and age. There's people, sleeping on the streets of our town. I think that if we can really all band together, that we can actually ensure that all of those people who are homeless now will have a home and will be able to keep that home forever and solve their problems and make our community stronger. I know, Brian, that as a local business owner, that having people homeless in the streets doesn't look good for your business. Having people drunk or sleeping outside businesses isn't good. It discourages customers. And as someone who cares about this community, that you want to see the whole community lifted and you want that problem solved so that we can all feel better about our community and grow going forward. Would you consider making a donation of €1,000 towards our campaign? There's three things. Now, that's a terrible pitch. I'm making up the Bundoran Homeless Society, whatever that means. But there's three key parts of this, okay? This is all you need to remember. I didn't say we. I said, I work for, I volunteer with, I'm a member of, I'm here on behalf of, whatever happens to be. We is an organization and no one gives a damn about an organization. Except football clubs. That's weird. But you know what I mean? Like, we don't care about organizations. It's I'm a person, I'm talking to Brian. Why am I talking as if I'm a bank? We at AIB would like to talk to you. Like, ugh. It's Kevin. I'm me. So I care about it. I think it's important. I'm inspired by the work of, I love to be part of something. I. Then I flipped it and I talked about you. I didn't talk about your business. It's like you. I know that you are a passionate member of our community. I know that you have a family and that you want to see, make sure they have facilities. I know that you, as a business owner, want to see our town do well. Because I'm a person talking to a person. Again, I'm not talking to a business. Because again, a business doesn't have any emotions. So I, then you, then the final thing, I ask for something and I shut up. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. Because we hate silence. If I stop talking, you all start shuffling. See? So I said, would you be interested in making a donation of €1,000? And I stopped. Brian is perfectly capable of saying, I will in my backside. What do you think I am, made of money? It's perfect. And then I'm like, no worries. How much would you feel comfortable with, Brian? I suppose I'll give you €100. That's amazing. Thanks a million. Right. But what we always do is or how it normally goes is, either we ask for no specific amount at all, and then Brian doesn't know how much money we need. So he goes, 50 quid enough? And you're like, yeah, okay. Now we've lost our opportunity. He may have well been happy to give us €10,000, but we didn't ask for that. So we'll take what he's given. We'll take what we're given. So we either don't say anything, or we say, so we're looking for donations from local businesses of €1,000. Now, if you don't have €1,000, €500 will be plenty, or whatever you can afford. What are we going to get from Ryan? Are we going to get €1,000? No, because we've told them we don't need €1,000. We need €500. So why are we asking? Ask for something and then wait for the answer. This method works for volunteers, for getting prizes for raffles, for getting donations from individuals and from businesses. Anytime you need something, members of your board or members of your committee, would you consider joining our board? And then they go, well, how much time is it? Well, we only meet once every 2 months for about 2 hours, bit of work in between, but nothing too onerous. Are you interested? What night is it? It's on Tuesdays, Tuesday every 2 months, first Tuesday of every 2 months. Tuesdays. Are you interested? Let the person answer themselves. When you start saying, oh, I know you're very busy, or I know you have a lot on, or I know that sounds like a lot of money, I'm making a decision for somebody else. Let them say no. Again, I've never had anyone be offended when I've asked them for something. I've had loads of people say no. We don't mind no's. No's fine. Okay. Does that all make sense so far? Okay. Any questions? Yeah, okay. I kind of cover this already. So, we have looked at why we exist. We've talked about knowing how much money you need and what it's for. We've talked about the importance of knowing what's happening in in your community, who's looking for money, what sort of activities are happening. Also the national stuff. Is there lots of fundraising for Ukraine? All those kind of things are relevant when we're making our plan, so that we know what's happening. Is there going to be local elections? Those things matter. So what's going on in the world? How much money we need and what it's for. In general, we've talked about looking at our current resources, cash, buildings, people, skills, knowledge, all those kind of things that feed into us. We've talked about that. We talked about looking at our current fundraising products a little bit, and we're going to cover that a bit more now. So we're going to get into our plan. One of the big areas that we make a mistake in when we start planning our fundraising is we stick to what we know. And most people, unless they've been working in a fundraising team, with a larger organization like the Irish Cancer Society or goes like bigger organizations, don't even have a sense of the wide range of fundraising activities that are available to them and how they work. So you see, Jigsaw with standing beside the CEO of Lidl or Aldi or whoever they have their partnership with, and kind of go, "What's amazing? How did they get that?" And how so we don't have we see it, but we don't know how we don't know how it works. So we stick to what we're good at. We can organize a walk, and we can do a backpack. And we can ask the kids in the primary school to do a fundraiser for us. We kind of stick to the same things that we've always done. And because loads of organizations are sticking to the same thing, it's kind of a law of diminishing returns. And we do our Churchgate collections, and they've been falling off for the last 20 years. We're doing bagpacking, but who has cash anymore? It's so we're beginning to get into this panic of what are we going to do? We'll do another backpack. So what I wanted to kind of try and do is introduce some of the ways that major organizations fundraise, and maybe how you might be able to apply those things to your organization. We'll see how it goes. I kind of cover most of the ones on this slide, not all of them. But I'll go through some of the kind of main areas of fundraising, kind of go pros and cons, why they should all be part of your fundraising mix, but also how you maybe should apply them and how you shouldn't necessarily be relying on them all too much. Yeah, I'll just stop explaining and actually start talking. Okay. Oh, I didn't get to show this video the other day, so I'm going to try and show it now if I can. If you can hear the sound, if I hit this home, just let me know if you can hear the sound when it starts playing. Can you even hear that? No. Okay.
Nope. No.
Oh, forget it. I'll come back to it later. I'm not going to waste time faffing about. forgot about it. Okay. Back to it. Okay. Community fundraising. I'll explain to you about Greenpeace later. If I get to my slides finished, that's gonna be the reward for myself. If I actually finish on time, I can show you the Greenpeace video. Community fundraising. When we talk about community fundraising, basically what we mean is other people doing fundraising events for you. The school doing a teddy bears picnic for you. Someone saying, I'm going to run women's mini marathon for you, all that kind of stuff that involves sponsorship cards broadly, or events that they're doing in their own homes. That's what community fundraising is. We love community fundraising in Ireland. We are obsessed with community fundraising in Ireland. We are by far the country that relies on community fundraising more than any other country in the world for their fundraising. The UK does it quite a lot of it too. America does some of it, but it's in a slightly different way. Scandinavia haven't even really heard of it. We're just all different. We love this type of fundraising. I'm sure every one of your organizations is doing some version of it because it's free. It doesn't cost anything for the local school to do something for you. You maybe have to give them a few buckets or a few posters, but that's about it. I got distracted. I think one of my boys just dropped a box of Lego in their bedroom. I just heard this crash. I haven't heard a scream, so it's not my problem. Completely lost my train of thought now. So community, so it's free. So it doesn't cost us anything, okay? If Eleanor comes to me and says, I'm going to run women's mini marathon for you next June, and I go, thanks very much, Eleanor, that's awesome. And maybe she raises €100, maybe she raises €500, I don't know, but it's free money and that's great. So from that point of view, it's brilliant to have that type of fundraising as part of your income for your organization. The problem is, I don't know if Eleanor's going to raise €100 or €500, or if she's even going to bother doing the run at all, because she might be all talk, no action. We don't know. And that's so we can't plan for it. And we also, Eleanor might raise €5,000 doing the women's mini marathon because she's super motivated and then not come back next year. So we have loads of money coming in this year. And we're like, well, hey, this is brilliant. And then next year, we're like, where is all the money gone? So we can't plan. So community fundraising, while it's brilliant, it's a great way of building community. It's a great way of engaging with, the people who use your community center, the people you engage with around your town. It's a brilliant way of having them as part of your organization. It's not a great way of building a sustainable income stream because you can't plan for it. You don't know how much is coming in every year. When I was in the Irish Cancer Society, we had in about €5 million, €6 million coming in from community fundraising every year. So we were kind of able to budget for it, but it would still go up and down by several $100,000 in a year. So we knew we were always going to get whatever, say 5 million, but sometimes be 7, sometimes be 6 or whatever, so we still couldn't plan, and the finance team used to go nuts about it. So even when you have a lot of money coming in, it's still unsettling because it's always at zero at the start of the year. But it should be part of your fundraising mix, just not everything. The big advantage of community fundraising is, just to reiterate it, it gives you an opportunity to bring people closer to your organization. And it also gives you an in into a network beyond yours. So if Eleanor volunteers at my organization and she's doing the women's mini marathon, she's going to talk to all her friends about my organization. So now I have an opportunity to reach into her network. Now I can be really strategic about that and actually try and bring those people closer. Depending on what type of event she's doing, maybe I can go turn up at the event and collect email addresses from everybody there. I mean, there's all sorts of ways, but it's a great way of spreading our reach. Just not necessarily a great way of building sustainable fundraising. Corporate partnerships. When I say corporate partnerships, I mean from, butcher in the village to Tesco. It's the same. The first thing to remember with corporate partnerships is the reason why they want to give an organization money in the first place. It's not altruism. It's always based in the fact that it's to make them look good. Okay. I don't mean, that doesn't mean that the owner of the butchers isn't a dead sound guy, right? Like that's not or doesn't have, isn't, really good, and it doesn't really care. But the only reason, the only logical reason for an organization or business to give money to a nonprofit, to a social enterprise, is so that it looks good for the customers, looks good to the community, looks good for their staff. If they're a bigger organization, it's good for their shareholders, it's good for, their corporate governance, all that kind of stuff. But fundamentally, companies engage with nonprofits, they make donations to nonprofits, they volunteer nonprofits so that they look good to the people that they care about. Okay, so there's always, you have to understand that that's the lens that they're viewing this from. So there's something in it for them. And that's a good thing from your point of view, because it means you're valuable to them. If giving money to your organization makes them look good, then your organization must have a value to them. And I think that's sometimes where we can be a bit weak. We sometimes bow down at the corporate leaders and kind of like, oh, Mr. CEO, you're so wonderful, what can we do for you? Can we all get your logo tattooed on our foreheads in appreciation of your generosity? We sometimes carry on a little bit like that, and you're like, hold on a second, they're giving us money because it's good for them, so we're in control of this relationship. Okay, so when you have this particularly gets into like volunteerism and stuff like that, you get corporates who will say, oh, we don't have any money, but we'd love to send some volunteers to paint your kitchen or do up your garden. And you might really want your kitchen painted, or you might want your garden done up, but you may be half thinking, we only got our kitchen painted last year, but sure, we'll say yes, we'll get them in to paint the kitchen, and maybe they'll make a donation in a few months' time because they'll have such a good time. We've all done that. Or yeah, sure, we don't really use our garden, but yeah, you can come and chop down the weeds and it'll be good experience. And you kind of view it as we'll get our foot in the door with Lidl or Tesco or whoever. Never works. Absolutely won't work. And again, it's understanding how the corporate is viewing what's going on here. Corporate has called you up and said, hey, Martin, I've got like 20 staff here that we're looking to do a volunteer day with. Would it be any use to you if we sent them off the day to do up your garden? And you go, yeah, grand. So I go, brilliant. I offered a service. Martin said he'd like that service, and I'm going to send my staff to do that and volunteer, and then that's done. And I go, brilliant. Aren't we fantastic? I did exactly what they asked us to do. Everyone's happy. Why would I think that I should make you a donation? Transaction's completed. I gave you what you wanted, and then you said thank you, and we went home. We're all happy. We're all good here. I don't wonder, like, from a business point of view, where a transaction is what's going on, why would I think that there will be more to come? So if you need your garden cleaned, your kitchen painted, whatever, whatever that happens to do, fantastic. Accept the volunteering with bells on. Say thank you very much. If you don't, then say no. Say, actually, our garden's fine, thanks. We could do it a donation though. And in fact, more and more organizations are charging for volunteering. So when Deloitte or PwC or Citigroup, whatever big company calls up and says, we'd like to send 20 of our young executives to paint your kitchen, they're saying that's no problem at all. That's €200 per person, and we'd expect a contribution of towards our time, our costs, and obviously a donation towards the service, because that's what we're all about. Many organizations are now asking for cash for businesses who are donating, because they understand there is a value to the business for volunteering, because they're doing it because their staff have told them that they want to do it. They look good. It's all part of their HR, whatever the reasons they've decided to do this. So they're now looking for donations. So never accept an offer of volunteering unless you want that volunteering. All right. Okay, then move on to corporates. Grants and foundations. I get asked all the time about grants and foundations. I get asked all the time, how can I improve my ability to do better in grants? And I only have 2/3 really dodgy answers, not dodgy answers, really practical answers that are actually true, but I always feel like people are going to slap me when I say them. First thing, if you're applying for a grant, you see a grant advertised. Margaret or Martin send around a grant, and you're like, oh, awesome. Just after sharing this, let's have a look. We'll get some money here. Do not apply for a grant unless you are explicitly eligible for that grant. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? If it says we're looking for organizations in towns of no bigger than 3,000, and you're like, well, the last census we were 3,500, close enough. You're not eligible for that grant. If it's a grant for youth organizations and you only deal with people who are over 18, you kind of go, but your 19-year-olds are still considered youth. Do not apply for that grant. You're wasting your time, money, and you're damaging your reputation. When I talk to granting bodies, people who actually have to administer grants, they tell me that, you know, somewhere between 40 and 60% of grants go in the bin. And a chunk of those is because people aren't eligible for it. So you've wasted your time filling out a form. You've gotten frustrated because you've gotten rejected, and you're like, oh, no one gives us grants, no matter how many we apply for, we never get them. Well, you weren't eligible for it, so you shouldn't have applied for it. And the third thing is you're damaging your reputation with an organization. You don't know that people who's given that grant might have a grant that you're eligible for in a 2 months' time. Maybe they open up a round for towns of over 5,000 and under. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's these idiots who wasted my time. I read that application and then I realized they weren't eligible. Then is that going to help them make a good decision for you? So number one tip, only apply for grants that you are explicitly eligible for. The second tip is even worse, and you're more likely to hit me on this one. Fill out the form exactly the way they ask you to fill it out. It's the other main reason why grants are rejected. I spoke personally with a woman who runs a festival in Dublin and has gotten Arts Council funding for 10 years. Last year, 2001, she filled out her Arts Council grant application on the form for the 2020 grant. So she used the exact same form, they just changed the year on the top. She used the wrong form. Stupid mistake. We could all have done that mistake, though it was a confusing year. She filled out the wrong form and got 0. So she got funding every year for 10 years. She was able to rely on that funding, and she got 0 because she filled out the wrong form. Fill out the form exactly the way you're asked to do it. If it looks for 3 years of audited accounts, give them 3 years of audited accounts. If you haven't got 3 years of audited accounts for a realistic reason, pick up the phone, call the person and say, we only have 2 years because we're only incorporated 2 years ago. Is that okay? They might say, actually, no, we look for 3 years because we only give grants to organizations that have been in existence for 3 years. Well, great. I haven't wasted their time. I haven't wasted my own time. And I'll apply next year when I am 3 years old. Fantastic. Or they might say, yeah, no, that's no problem. You can just send in 2 years. Then I kind of go, can I just get your name? I'm just going to write a little note to say that you're the one who said it was okay if I only sent 2. So that when they get the form, they don't go, this jackass didn't fill out the form properly, and throw it in the bin. They are the 2 main ways of improving your chance of getting grants. I kid you not. And I know you're all looking at me kind of going, oh, we're not that stupid, Kevin. Well, who's the ones who are filling out the forms wrong? Like, it must be all of us. We all must do it because so many forms are rejected. So many applications are rejected because they're not eligible or the forms are filled out wrong. So it must be us. So give yourself the time to apply, read the form, fill out every box that's there. Don't just kind of go, oh, that doesn't apply to us. We leave it blank. If it doesn't apply, right? This doesn't apply to us. Just be sure, give yourself every opportunity to get past it, because The people who are dealing with grants have hundreds in front of them, and every obstacle, every time you make it difficult for them, your chances of getting the grant go down. The ones who make it really easy, who have it filled out and really neat, like even if it's handwritten, if it's neatly written, it makes a chance. It improves your chances, right? And yes, go sorry.
Kevin, could I just ask, do you think would you be jeopardizing your chance of getting any funding if you actually rang up to clarify, from the funders before filling out a form?
In general, no. Some funders will explicitly say, no contact. Foundations and stuff, like some foundations will be like zero you fill it like, we don't want to hear from you at all. And then obviously you can't. You're not going to jeopardize it though if you're asking a technical question about the form. Now, you might. I can't really see, like, you can't go and say, do you think I'd get a grant for this project? You're not going to get that. But you can say, ours is a youth project. Is that the type of thing that you've funded in the past? And they kind of go, yeah, it sounds broadly similar. Or they might say, we can't really discuss that. That's fine. You're not going to hurt that. If you're trying to kind of weasel your way in, that is a type of thing where, because you're annoying somebody. I always think of it like, I always think of being on the other end of the phone. I worked for the Arts Council for a time, for a few years, and the people who would just annoy me, I think less of them. Like, and am I going to push them forward when it comes to it's either A or B? Who's going to get it? So asking questions to clarify is no problem.
Okay.
Being pushy is where you kind of get in trouble.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Keep going. All right. Is everyone still with me? Do people want to take like a 2-minute break or anything? Are we okay?
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. I'll power on through because I'm getting warm. I don't know how I'm getting warm. All right. Direct mail. Okay. Who likes getting direct mail packages in their post from charities? Sorry about that. That was a perfect timing. So yeah, no, we hate getting like direct mail packs. I normally have like 4 or 5 of them on my desk. I think I tidied recently, so I don't have them. We get them from Concern, we get them from Jack and Jill, we get them from Emergency, we get them from all these organizations, and we throw them in the bin, don't we? Every one of us flings them in the bin and says, "What a waste of money! I don't know why they keep sending me junk mail." So clearly, all these organizations are idiots. They keep sending us stuff that we don't want, and it all goes in the bin. They're clearly idiots. They just like wasting money.
Sorry, Kevin?
Yes, Sheila.
Sorry. Were there 3 points for the grants and foundations? You've only given 2.
I said 2/3.
Okay.
What was it? The third one was. Oh yes, sorry, I didn't give you my third point. Yes, I thought oh my God. You're pulling me up on my own stuff. Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I thought I missed it.
No, that's fine. My /3 point is don't create projects just to apply for the grant. Don't chase the money. Often what you'll find is, I don't know. Some government department have a grant available for new education projects for people with disabilities. And you're like, well, we don't have one of those, but we could if we got a grant. And then we create the project just for the grant. The grant only covers the cost of the project and takes away the focus, takes away your focus partially. And all of a sudden you're spending 10%, 20%, 30% of your time on a project that you'd never actually set up to do. So my third point is never, ever create a project just because there's a grant available. If there's a grant available and you're like, oh, should we apply? Go back to the start of the session and kind of go, why do you exist and what do we do? If the grant helps you with those 2 areas, then it's worth considering moving further. If it's not and you're just like, oh, but it'd be nice to get the money, just cut it. Absolutely cut it, because it's a waste of time. Thanks, Sheila. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, so we all hate getting direct mail. So clearly all these organizations are stupid, or obviously they're not, because they know what they're doing. They're massive organizations who are really well run, and they know exactly what they're doing. And I know that you can't afford to do direct mail. So don't get stuck in this. I'll come around to how you can afford to in a second. So don't be like, I'll switch off now for the next 5 minutes because we have no money, right? I know you have no money. I want you to talk about, just think about any letter that you've ever written to written as an organization out to all the local businesses, you know, where you got a list of every business in the town and said, we're going to write out and do a Christmas letter asking for a donation for the community centre. We'll ask for €200 from every business, right? Or something like that. And I guarantee that you wrote that letter and it was a 1-page letter, straight to the point, asked for the money, and then just sent it off as it was. Yeah, simple as. Simple 1-pager. Yeah, that sound about right? If you've ever done that. Okay. So why, when I get a letter from Concern, you'll notice this is a Sesame Street campaign. I happen to be a big Sesame Street fan, so that's why when I found a direct mail from Sesame Street, I just kept it in all my presentations since then. But anyway, but why, when you get a letter from Concern or get a letter from Croker or any of these organizations, it's not a 1-page letter. So everything that you know says, if I'm going to ask for money, I get in and out quick. Just ask the point. I don't want to waste people's time reading a big long letter. Just ask them for the money and then say, thanks very much, sign it, and in and out as short as possible. So why is the letter I get from Concern 6 pages long? And it has a booklet in it as well. What are they doing? What they're actually doing is giving you an opportunity to spend time with them. Well, because what the research says, and there's too much research for anyone's liking into this area, is that the longer you can get people to spend with you as an organization, the better. So the big challenge with a direct mail is to get you to open it. And once you've opened it and you start reading, the view is, if it's interesting, you'll keep reading. You want to hear what happens next. You want to hear the story. It's like, you know, so if you're concerned or telling you an interesting story about some girl in a school in Tanzania or whatever happens to be, and the challenges that she's having and how they're helping her, you're interested, so you'll keep reading. And if you spend 10 or 15 minutes with that organization, then you're more likely to give the organization because you've invested in it. You've learned a lot about them. You've learned about this little girl. You've built a relationship with her. You're connected to her and her family, and you've seen a picture of her or her little goat or whatever it happens to be. And you're like, oh God, and she's a sweet girl. She looks just like my granddaughter. Oh, I'd love to help her. So they've given you a chance to spend time with them as an organization, and therefore you're more likely to give. So the other thing you need to understand about direct marketing letters is that they're not written for your English teacher or your business lecturer. They're written in a very weird language. Like, read them. If you get one, Stuart, in your mail, it will have, dear Stuart, you know, we'll talk, and it'll keep going. Stuart, if you can give €25 today, it'll make a big difference. As you know, Stuart. And it'll just keep saying Stuart, 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 really weirdly. And you'll be like, that just sounds weird. I hate that. But again, the people who write these letters know what they're doing. And they know that if we keep prompting you to remind you that I'm reading a letter from this person, that I'm personally connected. The sentences will be really short. There'll be really simple words in it. There'll be no long paragraphs. There'll be large font, because they understand that most people who are reading these letters are older and don't have perfect eyesight. Don't write it so it'll be in size 14. They'll put pictures in because they know that we get bored reading big long passages, so they'll have pictures. They'll underline the bits that are important in the letter, all the stuff that you would never do in a business letter. And yet, when we write out to all the businesses in our community, we write a formal letter, say, dear sir, madam. What the hell is a dear sir, madam? Do you know what I mean? You never say dear neighbor or whatever. So, you know, so two things are about direct mail, insofar as if you're writing to people, whether you're existing donors, whether you're sending emails, whether you're writing to local businesses looking for support, take a note, take all the lessons from the direct marketing people who are spending millions of euro on research, writing really good letters to raise money because they know what they're doing. There's a great website I will point you to called Sophie.org. Yeah, it's just in the chat there. Sophie.org, where they've got lots of examples of fundraising letters. They have lots of how to write a letter. And what I'll tell you is, if you're going to write fundraising letters, believe the experts, don't believe yourself. Don't believe your brother who's an English teacher. Don't be giving it to other people who don't know what you're doing to ask them to proofread it for you and say, what do you think? Because they all go, oh, it sounds a bit weird. You're saying, you're using the word you far too much in that. You can't use the word you too much in a fundraiser. So if you're going to write a letter to your businesses, your supporters, go to Sophie.org. The second tip I will say is, it's hard to raise money from a backpack. It's hard to raise money from a table quiz. Is it possible that you could get a local business in your community to print off 3,000 copies of a really nice, well-crafted letter that you could write yourselves? Taking time, take a month to write the letter, make it as good as you can. But a local business would probably do it. Sure, some of our husbands or wives or whatever could probably get their boss to go, oh yeah, go on, stick it through the photocopier, grand. Yeah. Could you then, as a group, as a community, kind of go and deliver those 3,000 letters to every house in your community with a form on it, just the same as Concern sends, to send a donation to, your bank details maybe, or a link to pay to make a donation online, or you could come back the next week and pick up the donations. It would be hard work, no doubt, but could you do it? You could. Would you raise more money than you get from a backpack? Probably. I know an organization in Wicklow that does this, has been doing it for years, and they bring in somewhere between 30 and 50,000 euro a year. Now, it's a big town. They've been doing it for years. It's part of, everyone's used to it. It's like, so it takes years and years and years and years to grow that big. But this is what they do. They deliver a letter to every house in their town 1 week, and they go back a week or 2 weeks later and they collect all the money and they bring in a ton of money. You would not get anywhere near that. But if you were to go and do every year, do a campaign just like this to every house in your community, you get the scouts to deliver the letters, get the local schools to deliver the letters, whatever, it's fine. And then year on year, that will grow. Thing is, the Churchgate collection is going down, backpacking is going down. If you did this every year, you'd actually get more money every year, because Jude would give it this year, and and next year she'd probably do it again. But next year, Eleanor also gives money. So it might go from 500 euro the first year to 700 the next, to 1,000 the next, and it's doable. So I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying these are things of doing things a little bit differently. Still a lot of work though. Jude, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Kevin, about the do you need the Garda vet, or not get vetting, but to be allowed to collect money, like a street collection, or that?
Street collection. You don't need a permit to raise money from people that you know.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
if you are community members who are going around to people, like if you were going around all the houses in your estate, then no, it's kind of covered by a sponsorship card legislation. If you were going to do a big campaign, like, so if you were actually going to try and do a letter to everyone in the house, you're covered under GDPR because you're not writing to people's addresses. You're allowed to put stuff in people's letterbox. And I would have a chat with the local Garda sergeant, just say, just so you know, this is what we're doing. And the Garda sergeant would be like, I don't care. But at least then should Grumpy Mary on the corner phone up to kind of go, that's no problem. So like, there's always never any harm doing that kind of thing. Because as we know, Garda sergeants are a law unto themselves, and they can make up their own rules anyway. So you don't want to pee them off. So yeah, if you were going to do something major, same as if you're going to do a big run or a big walk, you'd have a chat with them and just let them know. But no, you're allowed fundraise from people that you know. So if you're a community group going out to the community, you're fine.
That's great. Thank you.
No problem. And after all, Domino's Pizza doesn't seem to ask permission to send me stuff in my letterbox. So there you go. Okay. Tele fundraising on a similar, if slightly, this section of the workshop is stuff that is a bit uncomfortable and a lot of work, but it actually makes more sense than some of the stuff that we do. But that's not a great title for this section. So direct marketing is one that I think we should be doing more of. We should be just sending letters to people, doing letter drops, building up our donor base. It's not going to hurt. It's just work. You know, it doesn't cost us, takes time, and it's worth a go. Tele fundraising. When I talk about tele fundraising, basically I mean annoying people phoning you, asking you to make donations to their charity on the phone. You know those people? We hate those calls. And normally they come from organizations that you already have a direct debit signed up with, you know, and they're looking at you to increase it. But this is the reason why I want to talk to you about this is, again, I think it's underutilized. If there are 10 people in your organization on the committee, or volunteers, or wherever you want to come, it's 10 people. And you all were to kind of go, okay, we need to raise some money. We need 5 grand. Pick a number off the top of my head. We need 5 grand. It's a lot of work, and you go through all the usual things. We do the table quiz, we do the bag packing, all the kind of different. We're going to have to do 4 or 5 things. Okay, fair enough. If we added into the mix, okay, there's 10 of us here. How many people do we each know personally who we could ask for a donation of €50? I think that on average, and you know, I don't have many friends, but on average, most people would have 5 people say that they could ask personally to make a donation of €50. Yeah, like, you know, your husband or wife has to say yes, your mother, your father, your sister. You know, the same people that you're going to sell raffle tickets to, basically, and you're still going to ask them, you know, or convince them to come to the ball that they don't want to go to, you know, those same people. So if there's 10 people on the committee and they all have 50 people, or they all have 5 people who they can ask personally for €50, that's 50 people. Sorry, am I right? 5 times, yeah. My math is late. So there's 50 people on our list who have written down their names. These are all people. So Jude has written down all the names of her 5 people. Denise is the same, Martin's the same. Okay. And here's the key. We do not go off and report back and let people know how we got on. Right. That doesn't work because we're chickens, right? We're terrified and we don't like doing this kind of stuff. What we do is we all arrange some Saturday morning to meet in the community center or someone's house, and we put on the kettle and we all make those phone calls together. And Denise goes first, and we take out the arrow that we used earlier on, and Denise goes, right, I'll go first, and she calls her brother and says, this is what I'm doing, this is the campaign we're doing, we're looking for 50 quid, will you give us 50 quid? And he goes, yeah, go on, you owe me a pint the next time I see you. And she goes, thanks very much, right? And then it's Jude's turn, and over the course of an hour we make 50 phone calls, and say 40 of those people say yes. They said that's 40 times 50, that's €2,000. That's €2,000 in an hour and a half. Table quizzes are hard work. Bag packing is hard work. This is hard work, but that's 2.5 grand or €2,000. It's doable. Is there anything to say then, if you're a community centre, that you couldn't say, now we're going to have a big fundraising drive for the whole community. We're inviting everybody in to do this. We're going to ask every person here to call over one day. You all have to come in and call 5 people on your mobile phone and ask them for donation, €10, €20, whatever it is. Even the kids. Could you do that? Absolutely could. Easier than a bring and buy sale or sale of work. Easier than a table quiz. Easier than a talent show. Just awkward. It's just awkward. We just don't like doing it. The money would be there, be done. No cleaning up. No making cakes. Purely making phone calls. I'm not, you know, call me stupid, but to me that sounds like a good way of raising money.
Stupid, because once you make that phone call,
yeah.
So I make the phone call to you. I know Kevin. I was in the same class as Kevin at school, and then we shared digs when we were at university. And I phoned Kevin up, and Kevin, and I say, Kevin, I want you to donate €25 to the to to fix
Whatever,
the
yeah.
pothole in the road in the avenue of the whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Kevin says, "I no bother, Stevie. I'll give you 25 euros." And
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a close because you don't have the 25 euros.
And I'll say, because I've thought about this, Stephen, don't worry, because what I will either have, and I'll probably have both, I'll say, that's great. If you, I can actually take your credit card details over the phone because we have an online donation form. I'll just stick it in right now. I could do that. Or I can text you the Revolut details or the bank details, and I can say, do you know what? I'm going to text you the bank details. Let me know when you sent it, and I'll log on to the bank and make sure it's gone through.
Yeah, that's a bit of a close.
That's what that's what I absolutely do, and I've done it. Because of course it would. Because if people are like, yeah, I'll give you 50 quid, no worries, and then you're like, oh shit, how am I going to get the money? Yeah, absolutely. No, the easiest way is actually to have a donation page. You set up an iDonate page. Like you don't have to have like fancy online like anything. Just a regular donation page like you'd have for doing a run or whatever, and you can just open it up and just take people's credit card details on the phone. You're not writing them down, so there's no risk. You're going to be careful, but it's your cousin or your brother, your mate, whatever. You absolutely would just plug it in and kind of go, that's magic. I've taken, 50 euro now. That's awesome. Just check your bank and make sure that it all went through. Okay. Thanks, William. And you're done. Absolutely. You're right, Stephen, though. You have to close it.
Michael, you have a question there? You have your hand up?
Yeah. What if all those people call me back next week looking for 50 euro? Need to think about who I ask.
Well, Michael, you're well able to say no if you want to.
Okay, I can say no.
Well, there you go.
I can give you 10.
Okay. I know, like it's all very easy for me to kind of be like, isn't it easy? I know it's hard and it's awful. But as I said at the start, my goal is to actually just give you alternative ways of looking at it, like moving beyond. Will we do another backpack when sure you'll be asked to do every time you go? I mean, it gets ridiculous. Every time you go to Super Value, you have to bring extra money with you just to throw money in whoever's box is there. Like it's the same thing. So coming at things from a different angle, there's success to be had there. Okay, I'm just gonna move on so that I'm not keeping people too much longer. Are we okay for another 15 minutes? Yeah. We've missed Coronation Street anyway. Is it even on? I don't know if it's on. But we've missed it at this stage. Okay. See which for anything else. Okay. Okay. I want to talk. Okay, I'm going to talk about these two, and then I'm going to talk about donor care, and then we're done. Okay. Kevin, can we ask Bono for money? Of course you can. If you have Bono's phone number. Anyone have Bono's phone number? Every year, the Sunday Times prints the Sunday Times rich list, right? And not every organization, but every year, thousands of organizations all over Ireland have the brilliant idea that no one's ever thought of before as let's write out to everybody on the rich list and ask them for money, as if they're the only people who've ever thought about it. And then they get no money and they're like, oh, those feckers never give anybody any money. They give millions away. But they don't give it to people who write letters to them that they don't know. I had the opportunity to speak. She was a donor of mine to a woman who was mega rich. She was 30, 40 million she had. But wasn't famous. So she wasn't Bono. So a person that you wouldn't know her, but she was rich, right? And she was like, Kevin, I'm getting about 100, 150 letters a week from people asking for money. I wish they'd stop. They're wasting their time. I can't open all the letters. And she was frustrated. She's like, I do what I can. I give to organizations that I care about. I just wish these people would stop. Because I just feel bad that I can't give to all these organizations. And everyone makes the same mistakes. The first thing we need to do is figure out what is a major donor for you. Because a major donor isn't a set thing. You don't have to be mega rich to be a major donor. You don't have to be Bono. For many of your organizations, 500 euro would be a big donation. Yeah, You got a check for €500 from Michael someday, you'd be like, whoa, we're taking the rest of the day off, 500 quid. So that's a major donor. So you have to make it, a major donation is a gift that kind of makes you go, whoa, that's important, that's big. You know, it's going to make a substantial difference to your organization. 500 quid is probably a good start for most organizations. You know, 500 quid, happy days. So how do we find people who are going to give us like 500 quid? Do we go to Sunday Times Rich List? No. We sit down, this is going to sound like I'm repeating myself. We sit down with our committee, with the people who are associated organizations, and how to go, do any of us know anybody who has the ability to give €500 and who would answer an email or phone call from us? So that's the starting point. So Michael might go, oh Jesus, the lad up the road sold a farm there a couple of years ago, made a killing on it. So, you know, we could try him. Fair enough, you know. Michael knows the lad up the road, so we assume they'd be able to give him a call. You know, Brian might kind of go, yeah, my brother is a partner in a law firm. He's fairly comfortable, so yeah, he'd have 500 quid. Don't know if he'd give us money, but we could ask. So we make a list again of the people who we know personally that we can ask for, that we could that have the ability to give €500 for. Now, we have to be careful here from a GDPR point of view. Brian knows this person. He doesn't have the permission to pass on those details to me. It's a personal contact. He cannot give me his friend's email address or phone number, right? That's not allowed. But Brian can say, he's on the board, Brian can send an email to his brother or whatever I said it was, and kind of go, you know, how's it going? You know, I'm on the board of such and such an organization. We're having a bit of fundraising drive. Would it be okay if I arranged a call for our chairperson with you, with the view that you might be willing to make a donation? And then his brother will go, oh, you fecker, okay, go on. Tell him to call me next Tuesday. That's how you set up major donor fundraising. Set up a call with someone. It's always a call or a face-to-face meeting. You don't want to send an email. You don't want to send a letter because you want to have a conversation. So Brian's brother now is expecting an email or a call from me next Tuesday, and he knows that it's about fundraising. No, it doesn't mean he's going to say yes, but he knows what it's about. So then I have a call and I say, this or do, you know, Brian's involved. I don't know how much he's explained to you about the program. This is our campaign. This is what we're looking for money for. Would you be willing to make a donation of €500? And then I shut up and I wait for him to answer. He says, oh, Jesus, go on then. And then, just like Stephen said, I say, brilliant. How do you want to do? Do you want me to invoice you for that, or how will we collect that money? Whatever happens to be. So major donors start off with the people who are associated, who you know, and everybody knows people who have the ability to make that. Every organization does. They're parents of people who use your services, whatever happens to be. They are your first group of people, and you start with them. And you then, once you get past that level, realistically, what you do is you use those people to get to the next level, because people who are partners in law firms know other people who are partners in law firms, and you've milked them, so they're going to happy for you to milk their friends. But that's the way it works. And you spread your net wider and wider and wider, and you bring more and more people in. Okay. Final one on this is legacies. No, not enough small organizations look for legacies. The average legacy gift in Ireland is €25,000. There is no organization in Ireland that wouldn't take that and wouldn't bite your hand off for the €25,000, considering it doesn't cost them anything to get it. All you have to do to get legacies is talk about them. But we're Irish, so we don't like talking about death. We have to get over ourselves. The big important thing about legacies is that people give to organizations that matter to them. So they give to community organizations, they give to tidy towns groups, they give to dog shelters, they give to people that they have spent their entire life seeing doing good work. They tend not to give it to big national organizations because just doesn't impact them on a local level. You know, someone is getting older, they're making their will, they're gonna go, geez, oh, I wish the Tidy Towns group, they make the place look spectacular. I always love when they put the flower baskets out. I'm going to leave them a few quid in my will. That's what happens. So if you want to be part of the growing amount of people getting, like, if you've got legacies, you need to talk about it. So if you're in the lucky situation where someone leaves you a gift in their will, make a bloody song and dance about it. Share it on your social media. Make sure you thank the family with their permission. We'd like to thank the family of the recently deceased so may she rest in peace, who was a huge supporter of ours, and left a very generous gift in her will for when she passed away. We'd like to, keep her and her family in your prayers, or whatever happens to be. Make a big deal of it, because then someone else reads that and goes, oh, I didn't know I could do that. When I'm making my will, I'll put them in my will. That's how it's done. If you're doing a newsletter, you can say, have you ever considered leaving a gift in your will for us? Did you know you could do that? Please contact us if you'd like to know more. Talk about legacies. It's free money. Okay. I'm just going to go on to so very quickly. So what you want to do, you're going through your plan. You've listened to all my harebrained ideas and you thought they're all useless. I've got better ones of my own. That's fine. Make a list of every idea you can possibly think of. Don't edit them at all, right? Every idea, crazy ones, huge ones, tiny ones you've done before. Don't edit them, right? All the ideas you can think of, and then score them. Just rate each one. Does that make sense? Is that something we could do? Would it make money for us? What about this? Does that make sense? Could we do it? Could it make money for us? And go through each of them. Pick your own scoring criteria. Is it new? Is it different? Is it exciting? Whatever. And score them all out of 10 out of 20, whatever. And then just do the top 5. Don't pick it because it was Michael's idea and he'll give out yards if you don't pick his idea. That's how we get into problems. Like, oh, he'd be grumpy. No. We put all the ideas down, we score them over the best ones, and we just do the best ones, because our job is to raise money, not make Michael happy. Unless we set up our organization to make Michael happy. If we did, we've got bigger problems. But you know what it is. So we just pick the ones that are the best ideas and we put them into our plan. When we make our plan, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to include everything. If you are going to do the direct mail campaign as part of your plan, then you're like, who's going to write the letter? Who's going to design the letter? Who's going to buy the paper? Where are they going to get the money to buy the paper? Who's going to refund them the money for the paper? You get my point. Every single step. The amount of times I've gone to mail 1,000 letters to someone and then going, oh crap, we've no stamps. Who's going to buy the stamps? When are they going to buy the stamps? How are they going to get the money from the petty cash for the stamps? It sounds ridiculous, but just put everything on a list. I like this slide because this is 2 airlines merging and they made the plan using Post-its. And I just always figure if you can merge airlines using Post-its, you can do everything in a pretty simple way. So all you have to do is make a list of every single possible thing that you're going to need for all your different ideas. And that's your plan. You put a date beside it, you put a person beside it. Okay. Put everything in. That's all it says. Oh yeah. And before then you start each activity. So your telephone campaign, your table quiz, your backpack, your different one. What are you put in? Set some targets around everything so that you can judge it next year. It's not that you're like trying to set yourself up for failure. But if we're going to have a table quiz, how many tables are we hoping to sell? Well, we're hoping to sell 20 tables. Brilliant. How many raffle tickets are you going to sell at the table quiz? Well, we're hoping to sell 200. Great. How much money are we hoping to make? We're hoping to make €1,000. Fantastic. Well, anything else? Yeah, we're hoping that the local paper will take a picture at the day. Fantastic. Anything else that we can set? We're going to get 20 prizes. There are our targets now. That's all our targets are. And then at the end of it, afterwards, you can kind of go, well, how many tables have we got? Well, we did amazing on tables. We actually got 25 tables. Excellent. That's our target for next year now, is 25 tables. But we didn't sell enough raffle tickets. Oh, we have to have a plan for how we're going to improve our raffle tickets. That's how targets work. It's not just ad hoc. It just means that we learn and we get better. By actually setting targets, we're able to reflect back and go, oh, Jesus, well, we gave Denise the job of getting recruiting all the tables. Turned out it was too much for one person. Denise needs help next year. Brilliant. We learned something. We get better. That's what I'm talking about. We're thinking into the future, how we get better. Okay. And finally, say thank you. Say thank you at your events. Say thank you for every single donation that you get. Big or small. Send cards, send letters, pick up the phone, say thank you very much for your donation. If you have the opportunity, get thank you cards printed, because thank you cards go on the fridge, they go on the mantelpiece, and they sit in people's houses. A thank you letter gets put in the bin or gets filed away. A thank you means there's a lovely picture of your centre, there's a lovely picture of your logo on someone's fridge with a big thank you, and everyone comes and picks it up and looks at it and goes, oh, what's that from? You kind of go, oh, I gave some money to that group. Oh, really? What did they do? Oh, well, they do this. And all of a sudden, people are talking about your organization, and you're making them feel good because their friend thinks they're amazing because they gave to this very awesome organization. So thank you cards are a really helpful way of saying thank you. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you. I am happy to take questions. I'm happy to stay and take questions, but people are free and released from my presence now. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate all the questions and comments and stuff. It helps because it reminds me of stuff that I wanted to say and didn't say. So thank you all for spending this evening with me, but I'm happy to hang around and take questions. So thanks a million.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. Anybody got any questions very quickly before we say goodnight? No, lots of
They're just afraid I'll keep talking. I think that's the problem.
No, there's lots of comments and thank yous on the chat box.
Aisling, do you have a question there?
Yeah, I just had one question. When it came to grants, I know you said not to push, but when there's like a deadline, when you've already applied for a grant and you know that it's coming out, you know, the decision's going to be made in like a week, should you contact the company and say, you know, have you made a decision? Not have you made a decision, but should you contact the company or should you just wait?
Unless there's a good, I guess, unless there's a good reason for contacting them. Like if they've said, you know, we'll let you know by next Friday, and then you're contacting them before then, I would say don't, because again, someone is just going, I told them it'd be next Friday. Now, if they've said we'll make a decision next Friday and then we'll let you know, and you haven't heard 2 or 3 weeks later, then there's no harm in contacting them and saying, just any word, you know, I told my board I was expecting to hear from you and I haven't heard, so I just need an update. That's fine, but I wouldn't have to. I guess I can't see the benefit in asking them, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else from anybody? No, I'll just stop recording and we can close off for the evening if everybody's happy.
Can I just ask, will all those little slide, you know, what to do's and fundraising, etc., will that be sent on?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin's going to forward on the slides after, and I will prepare the recording, and we'll get it both out in an email as soon as possible. Hopefully tomorrow morning, Denise. Yeah, I'll have it out.
Great. Thanks very much, then. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Denise.
Good night.
Okay, everybody. Good night, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.